I want to know what did it take to turn this event to a successful and historic game, pretty much.
It takes a great team. I had really great people around me. I think it takes a vision. I think this is true no matter what it is, what event it is, or a team. A coach will tell you this, a general manager, is having a vision for what success looks like. And I just felt if we had, there was a way to honor this legendary Hall of Fame. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame person in addition to being an incredible coach and teacher. So I just, the more I started to ask questions and people would say, whatever, if you're honoring Pete, count me in. Before we got this off the ground, I called Bob Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith. I called them all and said, if I can take this idea and put it in place and have this event and launch it in the Bay Area, would you bring your team out and participate? And everyone that I asked said yes. And they all came. There were very few that weren't, and the ones that weren't able to come out, it was usually because of the schedule the date didn't work. But in terms of just wanting to be there, they said yes. So I think it was having an idea, having a vision that people could connect with. And I thought they would be able to. I really felt like this was something important. And I give credit to my friend Randy Ryan. He had started the John Wooden Classic 3 years earlier. And I watched it flourish in Southern California. And even though I lived in Southern California, I still live, and Pete Newell lived in Southern California at the time, I felt that his identity would be better associated with Northern California because he'd been the head coach and won a national title at Berkeley. Mm-hmm. And before that, he launched his career as the head coach at University of San Francisco, which went on after he moved on. He helped build a program that produced 2 national championships back to back with Bill Russell. So I felt Northern California was the place to put it, and those great coaches that said I'll bring my teams out, yes, did, and we still hold the record for the largest crowd to ever see a college basketball game in the state of California, which I'm very proud of. And I, because it was a chance to just put the spotlight on someone that by nature, he shied away from the spotlight. You'll hear so many stories about when he was at his peak as a coach at Cal, he was almost embarrassed at the ovations he would get when they would introduce him before the game as the head coach of the Bears, Pete Newell. And he tried to just arrive in a way out of the spotlight. There was no, he didn't want all of the noise and the lights and whatever. He just wanted to coach and teach. And so you couldn't help but just love the man. And I met so many incredible people that are friends to this day, really good friends, that were associated with Pete Newell, former players, friends of his. They would do anything for him because he was that special. So those years where I got a chance to lead the, our staff and putting the game together every year was just an incredible honor and blessing. And I'm still reaping the rewards from it today by the relationships that I have because of that event.
It is a very great event and a very great way of, honoring him, obviously. And hopefully it stays on for the longest. I got one last thing for you, Professor. I appreciate you again for your time, but I would do myself a disservice if I don't ask you about 2 of the most, in my opinion, amazing and promising athletes in both women basketball and men basketball that are currently playing at USC, Juju Watkins and Elijah Arenas.
Yes.
I just want to know from your perspective and you being in a unique position to, see the excitement around them and them playing where you teach. What do you think the impact can be as players and human beings, not only on USC, the university, but also in terms of college sports and potentially the stars that they can become, respectively, in the WNBA and the NBA?
Well, first of all, I think it's great you've recognized both of them. Juju is special, and I would say I'm probably a little biased there because she's a former student of mine.
Oh, nice.
So she took my class a couple of fall semesters ago, and very present, very in the moment. I remember one time when she sent me a very nice note, an email. She asked if it was okay if she missed class. It was like 2 weeks down the road she was going to have to miss a class, and I'm very flexible especially with any student, because there's always a lot of things that can come up that might keep you away from class for a week, whatever. And athletes have travel and responsibilities, and so we work it out. But I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" And she said, "Well, I'm filming a Nike commercial." And I laughed and I thought, "Yeah, you know what? If one of my students has an opportunity to film a commercial for Nike and probably be well compensated and make an impact," I said, "That's we're good. I'll see you in 2 weeks." So. But very respectful that she sent the note, and enjoyed having her in class. And what she did on the court is, she is one of the handful of greatest women's players already, just after 2 years, that I've ever seen in my life. I still think Cheryl Miller is probably number one that I can remember seeing play, but Juju is right there. She's just a special talent. I think she's a special person. I think she has such a bright future. I can't wait to see her after she finishes her rehabilitation from her knee injury. And I think the great thing about the women's game, and why I just love the women's game so much, is the players are very motivated to be the best they can be in college. They tend to use their entire eligibility before they move on to the professional ranks. Obviously, that's part of that is the salary structure is not what it probably will be after the collective bargaining agreement is signed. But it's fun to watch players develop and be great in college and be really good with a team for several years. So that's really exciting. And I think the chance next year that USC has with Jazzy Davidson, the point guard who was the freshman of the year in the Big Ten and probably the freshman of the year in the country, certainly right at the top. And another couple of really good recruits coming in, Juju coming, if everybody comes back. Mm-hmm. And so I think future is super bright for Juju. I think both on the court and off the court, she has a chance to make an impact in business and other areas and as a role model, little girls that come to games to watch her and just be close to her. And it's a really cool thing to see. And that a big part of what we talk about in class these days, Femi, is the rise of women's sports. So it's an incredible time right now, women's sports. And Elijah, it was like such a bright future. We saw glimpses of it. He kind of came on right at the end of the year. He didn't shoot the ball well when he came back, but he was out there playing, and he plays hard. And I think he's a winner. And I hope he stays in college, because I think to play at least one more full year healthy would be important for his development. I think he probably would still be very well regarded and picked by somebody if he came into the draft this year.
Yeah.
I hope he stays, because I think having a full year, hopefully injury-free, will be important, mm-hmm. but also a bright future. Plays inside, outside. He's long at 6'6", good eyes, obviously raised in a basketball family with his dad, Gilbert. So I think it'd be very exciting next year for those two if they're both back playing in college, and that's what I'm hoping. And in the case of Juju, I think she's has a chance to go in next season with USC ranked right at the top. I think a top 5 team going into next season.
Yeah. I don't know if Gilbert is going to be okay with you getting Elijah back in college. I mean, it's always a very interesting conversation figuring out how long these prospects should stay in college, and the same conversation is even had in the women with the women, because some people might argue that having these players, exciting players like Caitlin when she was still in college, Angel Reese, Juju now, Froje, maybe getting into the WNBA earlier might be able to bring more revenues and more fans,
Sure.
to the W. So there's
Sure.
always this conversation as far as like the eligibility issue and how soon can these players declare from the draft and get into the pro sports. But it's always a fun conversation to have. I'm really, really excited also about these two prospects. I mean, I just started really getting myself in the WNBA and women basketball in general, maybe like 2-3 years ago. So it's been super exciting, and watching Juju play, I cannot wait to see her get back on the court after that gruesome injury, obviously, that she had to deal with Elijah with the accident also. But, I'm excited to see what she can also bring back. Hopefully she gets fully recovered and is able to get back and even be better than what she was prior to the injury.
Well, yeah, and I would just add too, Femi. I think this year, going into the tournament, starting this week, I think the UCLA women with Lauren Betts and Kiki Rice and Gianna Neepkins and Gabriela Jaquez, I think that team is super special as well. And I think they will have a chance to make a real run. They're the number 2 overall seed behind UConn.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're better than last year. And obviously UConn blew them out in the semis, the Final Four, but the Final Four is in Phoenix. So they have a much different path. They go, first 2 games would be at home. If they win this weekend, then it would be Sacramento, and then it would be Phoenix. So you're talking about an hour flight, essentially, either way. So I think it's kind of set up that you may see a rematch, or you'll at least you'll have a chance for a deep run. And I think that could end up being, as a team that's lost 1 game, UConn's undefeated. So that could be a historically good team, UCLA, by the time this season is over. So imagine in LA, just in Los Angeles, you have the women's programs as good as they are at both UCLA and USC. I'm telling you, the women outdrew the men at USC a year ago.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the final number this year, but it's a real thing. UCLA's women's gymnastics team sold out Pauley Pavilion over the weekend, drew 13,000 to a dual meet against Utah. Women's gymnastics. So it's a really exciting time for women's sports. Flag football is a new sport at USC. It's a club sport, but I think it's maybe on its way to being down the road a varsity sport. And it's going to be a sport in the Olympics, flag football for men in the 28 Olympics. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of really exciting things going on the women's side. And, it's really fun to be here in LA and looking ahead to the Olympics in just 2 years.
Yeah, I was watching some of the games of the FIBA qualifiers that they're having right now. And, man, seeing Paige, Angel, and Caitlin coming off the bench right now, and you still got Juju in college and,
Yes.
Froje, and the talent that is up and coming in women basketball and women's sports in general right now is amazing. And I truly hope that, these players and the Players Association are able to leverage that as much as possible to get what they deserve in this new collective bargaining agreement that they're negotiating. And it's on the rise, and it will be smart for these ownership groups, because most of them also own some NBA teams. So they got the money.
Yes.
Figure it out.
Yes.
Pay these women, and hopefully we can continue to enjoy it and witness the growth of the sport, and just reward them as at the level that they truly desire for the product that they put out there.